Welcome to another episode of Your Pleasure Incorporated into Daily Living. I'm your host, Ellen Nicholas Rathbone, sensuality consultant, life coach, and enthusiast for fitness. I've been exercising for a long time. And when I was in my 20s, I found yoga. And I absolutely love yoga. And now that I have aged considerably, I love it all the more because it is one of the practices that helps this body and anybody's body stay limber and flexible and strong throughout the years. So I'm not a yogi per se, but I have invited an instructor, a yogi instructor who teaches at RWJ Fitness and Wellness, among other places. And she's absolutely delightful and she really knows her stuff. And so without further ado, I would like to bring on my guest for this week, Kristen McIntyre. So here she is. There she
Hi.
is. Hi,
Hi,
Kristen. So nice to
Ellen.
have you here.
So
Welcome.
nice to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. I got to tell you, it's
Yeah.
been when I was in my 20s, when I did yoga all the time, I really loved it. But then I abandoned it for so many years. And it wasn't until about 10 years ago that I started to do it again. And all the things that I could do back when I was in my 20s, it really is a difficult journey to get back there. But it's something that I want to persevere at because the human body most definitely responds to the requests, we'll put it that way, that you
Yeah.
make upon it. So tell us a little bit about how yoga has served you in your life.
Sure. When I graduated college, it was a very difficult time because the job market was not good in 2008, 2009. So
Oh,
I was a little confused about what to do. So I had a lot of freelance jobs and I was working in hospitality in New York City. So after a while, I realized that a lot of these jobs just weren't serving me. It wasn't the right fit, right? So I ended up working at a yoga studio, and unbeknownst to me at that time, I didn't really have the spiritual, I guess, connection that I was searching for, right? I think everyone in their 20s is sort of searching for something bigger than themselves. We kind of lose our maybe connection to the faith that we grew up with or things of that nature. So when I entered that studio, I went in there as sort of a office manager slash studio manager. I didn't have any anticipation of teaching. And then, a couple years later, I was teaching yoga at like a bunch of different locations. And it was something that I felt really helped me reconnect to that essence of who we are, that connection to the divine, the connection to that space of Zen that allows us to kind of oversee all the stuff that we're bombarded with on a daily basis, from the social media to just like the stress of everyday life and, the stuff that's really coming at us in all different directions these days. So
mm-hmm.
that's what I want to provide. And I do provide to other people is just sort of this outlet that kind of lets us clear out some of the thoughts of the mind.
Right, right. I know that, there's different kinds of yoga,
Yeah.
hatha, vinyasa, gentle. One of my favorites, quite honestly, which I really wish they would introduce at RWJ is yin yoga.
Oh, yes.
So different than everything else. But
Right.
why don't you tell our listening audience about what really differentiates the different yoga practices?
Okay, well, first and foremost, yoga is moving with the breath. So we want to make sure that we have that strong connection to our breath work, regardless of what type of yoga that we're doing. So I primarily teach vinyasa, which is where you're really synchronizing your breath with each movement. That's what we call more of a flow. In hatha yoga, it's more about holding postures for a little bit of time, but of course, we still want to have that deep connection to our breath while we're holding those poses. Yin
Mm-hmm.
yoga, which you mentioned, is more of second chakra based, working with the hips and the yin energy, which is, I think, the feminine energy, and the water element of the hips, which is great. So yin yoga, you hold the poses for, again, quite a while,
Yeah.
to open up that space to balance first and second chakra.
Right. I can tell you, whenever I've done yin yoga, and they had a pop-up class a few weeks ago, that was a yin combination of yin and vinyasa. But, you know, you get into a yin posture like a, what's it called? Anyway, when you bring that one leg underneath you and then you bend over it.
Yeah.
When you let go of that posture and you bring that leg back up, it feels like it's floating. And then it also feels like it takes forever to finally touch ground. It just feels like it's so much longer, you know?
Yes.
But I have found that everyone can benefit from yoga.
Yes.
And I feel especially that people who have racing minds, like the
Yeah.
Vata personality, or
Yeah.
the Vata body type,
Mm-hmm.
they have very fast metabolism. And when you are practicing yoga, you are slowing all of that down. So there's going to be some kind of effect also on your blood pressure, on your parasympathetic
Oh, yes.
nervous system. So, you know, tell us what you think
Sure.
is like the
Yeah.
best kind of yoga to help people slow down and to really connect with their breath, because the breath is life. And
Yes, the breath is
right.
the prana, the life force. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's done, you know, we breathe all the time and we never give it a second thought. But when you're in yoga,
Exactly.
you most definitely want to feel your breath coming in and going out, and you take those nice deep breaths and you're
Yes.
using all of your lungs. It's
Yeah.
really
So
beneficial.
that diaphragmic breath, which we utilize in all the practices, it's what allows us to activate the parasympathetic nervous system and to really slow down and to let go and be less anxious, because I think especially today we're all kind of holding stress, and a lot of people are suffering from anxiety and they might not even realize, and like you said about the blood pressure. So any yoga that you do is going to activate your parasympathetic nervous system. It's going to lower your blood pressure, and it's going to teach you to then take those tools off the mat, right? So the breathing that you do is so wonderful, because hopefully over time you're going to realize, oh, I have to go into this meeting and I'm a little nervous, so I'm going to go to the bathroom and I'm going to do my Zen breath, and really hopefully use those tools outside of just being on the mat. That's one of my goals when I teach, is just to remind students that you can do this on an airplane, you can do this, anywhere in
Right.
your brain. Like, so the breathing is the best thing, in my opinion, that you can do, whether you're doing the yoga, the physical practice, or you're just sitting at home.
Right. I think that it's important to really connect the breath to the movements, because you don't even realize how much tightness you're holding into your body. And then when you breathe, as you say in class, breathe into that area, your
Yeah.
mind goes to that area. And as you're breathing, you can definitely feel the muscles lengthening and relaxing. I just think it's just one of the most beneficial exercises. I mean, there's nothing wrong with running and there's nothing wrong with lifting weights. I do all of this,
Yes.
but I really feel that the yoga is the thing that keeps me balanced. Okay.
Yeah.
Because you can overdo some of the other stuff. I don't think you can overdo yoga. Do you think? I mean, Do
I
you think
think life is all about balance. That's
if
also
life is
something that's very key. I think balance is the key to life, but I think that there's nothing wrong with doing yoga every day. Like if that's what someone wants to do, it's certainly not going to hurt you. But
right,
yes, to find that balance, to recognize where we're holding tension in the body is sort of an art, right? How does anyone know that? We're not really born with these. I mean, we're born with these tools, but we're not really taught how to use them in school. So this is something that, you could be Ivy League school and not have really noticed that you're not breathing deep enough. So it's very interesting how, yoga is just really for everybody, no matter what walk of life you've been on.
right. Do you think there's any age that a person should stop doing yoga or
Oh, no.
no?
Do it as long as you can. It's for longevity, right? So just like you said, when you kind of stopped and you got back into it, it's a little challenging, but challenge is great, right? I think challenge is the spice of life. And that's another thing I wanted to mention is that, when people come to class, whether they're seasoned or, intermediate or advanced, being challenged is very humbling for us all. And I think that's really important to be humbled at some
Right,
stage in life and to have those challenges and to really bring yourself back into that state of, just trying, right? And not
right,
being afraid of trying. And I think
right,
that's something that I want to encourage people to do is just try. It doesn't mean it's going to happen today, but, we got to have that positive mindset that comes along with just going for it and not overthinking. Because I think even
right.
myself, I've always sort of been an overthinker. I don't know about you.
Well, I'm a pitta, so we don't overthink as much as Vadas do. But I can't say
Say
can't
I'm a
say that
pitta.
I haven't gone through my moments where I really have to put the reins on. What would you say is? I mean, it's really important to
Mhm.
focus
Yeah.
in yoga. Okay, so I know that we're in class. You have us focus on something that's not moving. Do you think it's a better idea to maybe just close your eyes, or do you think that makes it more difficult? Because I know for myself, I can
Uh-huh.
focus on, say, a place in the room that's not moving. But if there are other
Right.
people around me and their bodies are going, this way and that in itself, even if it's out of the corner of my eye, is a little
Mm.
distracting.
Yes,
So
yes.
focus seems like super, super important because your body will surprise you if you're
Yeah.
not thinking too much about what you're doing and if you have laser focus on something.
Right. So the dristi is a Sanskrit term that means a point of focus. So I often use that. Every single pose is supposed to have a dristi, where a space that you're supposed to gaze at. A lot of times it's the thumb, right, when we're lifting the arms up, but that could be a lot on people's heads, so then they can look somewhere else. But to have that focal point is important, but especially with balance, especially if someone's struggling with balance and that's a challenge for them, if they're wandering their eye gaze, it's going to make it even more difficult. And sometimes it causes stress, right? Because then they feel frustrated. So if we keep a steady gaze on one spot, our peripheral vision is going to trick us, right, into moving our gaze. But that's again where we really got to hone in on the focus even more and to try not to let that distract us. That often helps best with balance.
Right. What would you say are some of the most restorative poses that could benefit the entire body?
Definitely legs up the wall, where you're lying on your back and you bring your legs up the wall, because then the blood, it's an inversion. So the blood is going to flow the opposite direction. And that promotes a lot of relaxation in those legs, right? Because we're always standing or walking. So that's really wonderful. Because a
Right.
lot of people can't get into like a headstand, or that's not just something that they want to do. So this is a restorative way to take some of the pressure off the legs, to let the blood flow the opposite way. And any restorative pose is fantastic, but a lot of times a lot of people don't like them because you're really kind of just doing nothing, and people don't like that so much. They'd rather move from pose to pose in that yoga flow.
Hmm.
So if you can sit in any restorative pose, even just sitting in a cross-legged position with your, thumb and index finger together, taking a couple breaths and sitting nice and tall could be a wonderful pose. It's a meditative state.
Right. Now, is downward facing dog a restorative pose
Um,
or
it's
maybe
an
child's
inversion.
pose?
Child's pose is restorative. Down dog is considered an active pose, but it is an inversion as well. But I mean, you can really hold any of the poses for a lengthy period of time. And if you can restore, but it's not necessarily like traditional restorative, you know, some people just like them. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Do you think it's a good idea to do yoga maybe if you can do it every day, even if you're just doing, say, 10 to 20 minutes, is that enough to help move you towards a more flexible body and a more balanced and strong core, or do you need more than that?
I would say you're better off going to a yoga class 2 to 3 times a week.
Right.
If
Okay.
you're really looking to promote overall flexibility and also create that calm in the mind, I think really dedicating yourself to your practice is very important. Just like any other practice, if you're going to the gym and you're training or you're creating a program for yourself or you're working with a trainer, you know, having that consistency is really the key. 10 minutes would be okay if like you're on vacation and you got to squeeze a little in here and there, but I would say hour practice 2 to 3 times a week. In addition to, if you can, if you really want to really jumpstart your practice and you want to get into these arm balances and these funky poses, the truth is, and not a lot of people are going to tell you, but the truth is you do have to have some strength training. Most people, there are some exceptions, but most people do need a strength training practice to get into the more advanced poses and, you know, the arm balances and inversions and, you know, funky things that you see online.
Right. I used to be able, like as I said, back in my 20s, I could do that wheelbarrow where your body is bent like this and you just push
Yes.
yourself up, and I could do that. Now, I'm not sure if it's because I have a lot of muscle in my shoulders, but I have a lot more muscle since I've been working out with weights. I started with weights in my 30s, and
Nice.
I have a lot more muscle up here. And I think if somebody helped me up there, I could
Yes.
hold it. But I
Okay.
want to get to the point where I can push myself up there and do it again by myself. So is there some exercise? Are there some postures that I can practice? Maybe for forearms or for shoulders, I don't know.
So I'd have to really look at it. I have to see, you know, a lot of times with the elbows, you know, and the wrist, sometimes people just have a lot of sensitivity in the wrist. We could workshop it. I'd love to work with you and see if we could there's some tricks to it. But again, that's one of those poses that it's actually the spine, right? So you're creating a wheel-like shape. You're creating this back bend, right? So the flexibility has to be in the spine. You don't want to pinch or compress your mid or low back. So really opening up the upper back is really what's going to help you get into that wheel shape.
Okay.
So more opening up the chest, upper back, that's what's going to help you press up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a place where our listening audience can contact you for places where you're doing classes or an Instagram account or something like this? Like, tell the audience how they can reach out to you, Kristen.
Sure. So I promote my classes and my workshops and lifestyle stuff on my Instagram. My Instagram is at KAYJEM, KAYJEM. And I do some outdoor stuff in the spring and the summer. I do some activities outside with the yoga. We do some fun stuff, events. We'll see what's coming up in this new year. I haven't put anything on the calendar just yet, but we're going to get there soon. And yeah, so check it out.
Nice. Very, very nice. You know, I always tell people what a great class you do.
Thank you. Yes, I'm at RWJ, Robert Wood. I'm there quite a bit. I teach there like 5 classes a week. Powerhouse Gym. I'm all over the place. Just follow me on Instagram.
Right. Because I think one of the things that makes you such a great instructor is you do align the breath with the movement. That's number one. You're always doing that, which is great. Kind of reminds people to to link those two, which is really, really important. If
Yeah.
you're breathing sporadically, you're almost tensing your body up while you're trying to do these postures. So you're constantly reminding people to do that. And then also, I think another thing that I love about your class is you just never know what Kristen's going to throw at you. Like today, hello, the leg out to the side and the arm over here. I'm like, what the heck? But you
I
know
think
what?
it's
It
super
was really
creative. That's
fun. It was fun.
so my niche is creative vinyasa. My niche
Yeah,
is creative vinyasa. I try to make it as funky, a little bit almost like a choreography, not exactly, but just to make it different. So that way
right,
you're never gonna get the same thing twice,
right,
rarely.
right.
And it's a little spicy.
Yes, yes. And I think that's what also makes it fun, because there are other classes that I've been to where you know exactly what they're going to do from one moment to the next because they always do the same thing. And if I
Mm.
wanted the same thing, I could get a tape. I could go, see what I'm saying? It's always the same thing. But you
Right,
go to a
right.
yogi's class
Yeah.
because they are going to challenge you differently, and you
Hmm.
are going to see what your body can do. And then if you need a correction, you have an instructor right there who can tell you, listen, you're not quite there. You need to straighten that leg out and bring yourself up a little more, whatever they need to do, the yogi can do it for that, can tell them about it. Because I think some people
Absolutely.
think they can cheat their way in yoga. And who are you cheating when you cheat your way in yoga, right? It's like
Right. That's funny.
it's not a competitive sport, you know? And I think that's the other thing I love about yoga is that it's an individual and their journey with their body towards balance and wellness, right?
Yes, and I look around the room and I see when people are struggling. I can see when people are not breathing, and that's also one of the reasons why there's so many reminders is because I'm really watching and I'm very aware of what people are doing. And that to me is the whole point of me being there, is to really guide you guys along and not just be at the front of the room like doing the class. Anybody could do that, but
Right.
and also the more you're engaged in your practice, the more you're gonna not have as many thoughts. So the more little fun things I can throw in there, the less you're gonna be reminded about all the stress that happened earlier in the day or last night or whatever. We
Right.
gotta, move some of that stuff out of the way for a little bit.
Right. They say that the core of the body, the center of the body, is the powerhouse of the
Yes,
body. Is
that's
that especially true with yoga? Like, does yoga depend on the body's center being the most important aspect of getting the practice done and getting the movements done?
yeah. I mean, your core has to be tight. I would say, like, if you think about fitness in general, I'm also a personal trainer. So when you think about fitness in general, I think everything revolves around core strength, because if you don't have core strength, you're going to hurt your back.
Right.
So I would say, yeah, that's quintessential. But also I think for yogis, it's more just, am I breathing and am I becoming aware? Like when you're becoming aware, then you're becoming more conscious. And when you're more conscious, you are more mindful and you can make better decisions. You make the world a better place,
Right.
right? You're not just,
Right.
we live in a world where, we're becoming more and more and more seeing it's more like instant gratification and me, and it's like, well, where's the altruism and where's this connection to source and the interrelation between us and others? Like it's there, it's in the practice, and you're going to find that when you do yoga, your relationship to yourself, your relationship to others is going to bloom and really shift as well. So there's a lot more to it than just the physical, which is also wonderful.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. I think that when you see your light energy, when you recognize your light energy, and you realize how important breath is, that breath is life,
Yes.
and that take the focus from out there to in here, that it gives you a completely different perspective of yourself, of
Mm-hmm.
who you are really, of
Mm-hmm.
how you are in this planet,
Yes.
and then also how you relate to others, because
Yes.
you understand that they also have that same light force in them. That's why
Yep.
we say namaste, isn't it?
Yes. The light in me bows and honors to the light in you. Yes, that's what that
Right.
translates to.
Right, right. And I think it's a good idea to say that at the end of every class, or even at the beginning of every class, just to kind of let people understand what it means. Because there's a lot of people, they have no idea what it
Right.
means. And
Absolutely.
a little education goes a long way, you know?
Yes. Oh, 100%. Yes.
Right. So there's just, there's mental, there's spiritual, and there's physical in
Mm-hmm.
the yoga practice.
Yes.
And it's beneficial whether you're a child, a teenager, an adult, a senior, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter when you start, as long as you start. You find yourself a good yoga studio, something close to you,
Yep.
and invest in time there. And it doesn't happen overnight. Your flexibility isn't happening overnight. Everything doesn't happen overnight, but putting the effort into taking care of your temple and
Oh, yes.
connecting it to source, I think is the healthiest
Yes.
thing anybody can possibly do.
And if
You know,
people are intimidated to start, that's completely understandable. And just like having, one-on-one personal training, that's something that yoga teachers offer. We offer one-on-one sessions for people who are new, or for people who want to get into a particular pose. They want that one-on-one attention. It's helpful. If that's your goal, it's the same as any other workout with someone one-on-one. So it's something, it's an investment, but it might be worthwhile for someone if that's what they're interested in.
right? I think it's preventative medicine. I
100%.
really, really do, because a lot of people don't understand that their shallow breathing is causing their high blood pressure, and
Yes.
that the fact that they are not able to release the tension from their body is also causing hypertension. So
Right.
there's a lot of benefit by taking the bull by the horn and doing a couple of exercises on a regular basis that prevent those problems, help you to stay centered. And I
Yeah.
think yoga is one of the best ways to stay centered, because this world can knock you around
Yes.
with its craziness.
Yes.
But if you know where true north is, and if you know where
Yes.
your center is,
I love that.
then it doesn't matter what else is going on around you. You can stay at peace with yourself. And that's
Yeah.
one of the things I also love about yoga. I mean, when I'm there, I'm meditating while I'm doing my practice, because
That's
yoga
beautiful.
is, for some, not for all, obviously, but for some, it is a moving meditation. Would you agree?
Oh, yes. Yeah, 100%. And I hope people can, take that information and maybe just experiment with that if they haven't already, to find that true north and to zone into, where you are and what you're doing, and to let everything else go by the wayside and really hone in on what you're doing. That in itself is a meditation,
Yes.
because clearing the mind and just being present is not easy.
No, no. But with yoga and actually focusing on your breath, if you're focusing on your breath, then your mind is not going anyplace else, because you're actually feeling it coming in and letting it go out, or maybe you're holding it for a minute, or you've
Right.
expelled it and you're just kind of letting it be, and then you feel it come in again. So if you're really focusing on your breath,
Mhm.
your mind has, thoughts can't really start building up, because you're focusing on something else.
Right.
And I think it's a very, very important practice to help people calm down, get off of meds,
Yeah.
and live a healthier life. I really, really believe that
Yeah.
it's important for that. Did you want to say something about that?
That's such a great point. And I just want to bring that up that, as, someone who has suffered when I was in my 20s, I had horrible anxiety, like almost, um, just preventing me from doing certain things in life. That's how bad it was. So I wasn't on medication for a very long time, but I did take medication for a very, very short period of time. But for some people, once they do that, it becomes the crutch and then they can't move forward. So
Right,
when you're using a tool like yoga, it does become a holistic tool to help you heal certain things that may be going on in the mind or the body. Like we
right,
all pretty much go through certain things in life, different experiences that are unpleasant, right? We all have really big emotions that sort of kind of, like you said, kind of come out of the water and blow us away for a short period of time. So when that happens, the yoga can be the anchor that grounds you into the present and kind of helps you to get out of the brain fog, right? That if
right,
you're taking a lot of medicine, sometimes that's not going to it's going to make it worse. It's going to make your brain even cloudier and foggier, and we get dependent on things.
right,
So it can be complementary to help us get over those humps that come up along the road, when we get blown out of the water by certain things that happen in life. That's inevitable. So,
right,
yeah, I
right.
think it's a wonderful tool for holistic healing, and it's definitely helped me on my journey of healing my anxiety for sure.
Right. And it also, when you're doing those postures where you're
Uh-huh.
twisting at the spine, etc., you're massaging your organs
Yeah.
and you're helping to bathe the spine with the fluid between the
Yes.
vertebrae so that you don't actually shrink as you get older. Because
Yes.
people don't understand that gravity is pushing us down and the vertebrae are kind of packing into each other. And every time you do a twist of some kind, you are opening up the spine a little bit. And then a little bit of that fluid can go between the vertebra so that they stay healthy. And you don't have to worry about compressed or bulging discs in the long, for the long run, because this is preventing problems.
Right.
Okay. And what if
Yes.
somebody has a problem with bulging discs? Are there any particular, well, I should say yoga classes
Mhm.
that would be beneficial for them?
So, the flexibility of the spine is imperative. I don't really have anything specific for back injury because you'd have to speak to your doctor. I don't want to offer any medical advice,
Okay.
because everybody's going to have a different scenario and thing going on. But I will say that the flexibility of the spine is pretty much one of the basis behind why we're doing yoga, right? Because
Right.
we get
Right.
into shapes and then sometimes over time we can't get out of that shape. So the cat cow pose when we're in tabletop and we're creating flexion and extension of the spine, that is, if we could do that one every day, regardless of where we are, if we're sitting and doing that one, that would be the number one most preventative measure for the aging of the spine.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Kristen, it has been an absolute pleasure. I want
Thank
to
you.
thank you so much for being a guest on my show today. I think that you are a phenomenal teacher and a wealth of knowledge,
Thank
and
you.
I so appreciate you.
I
So,
appreciate you. I'm sending all my love and gratitude to you. Thank you for those compliments.
well, you're terrific. And you keep it up because your practice and your guidance and your teaching does make the world a better place, one person at a time, one class at a time.
So
So
does your
keep up the good
podcast.
work. I'm sorry? So does
So
my
does your
body.
podcast.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I just know that I benefit very much so. Every time I take a class with you, I just feel like that was awesome. So glad I did that. And I just feel 100% better. So thank you for being you. Thank you for doing such a wonderful class.
Thank you. It's wonderful having you as a student, and hearing that feedback is just makes my heart so happy, because that's the whole point, is to just, make people feel good.
Now, mention one more time the Instagram page so
Yeah.
that, go ahead.
Sure. So my Instagram is at KJEM, KAYJEM.
Okay. All right. Very, very good. Thank you so much for joining me. I will see you at class on Wednesday. Okay.
Sounds great.
Okay. And have a lovely evening. Namaste, sweetie.
Namaste, Ellen. Thank you.
My
Take care.
pleasure. Okay. Bye. You know, yoga has served me, and I wish I had continued to do it all through my life, but I'm back to doing it. And I encourage everyone, especially people over 50, to get back to it or to start. And if you are a Vata body type, which are the thin people that have very fast minds, that like running and all kinds of quick movement kind of exercises. This is especially important to help your body slow down and to help your mind slow down. So I strongly recommend that you give it a try, because it's a practice that's over 5,000 years old. It would not have withstood the test of time unless it was truly beneficial. So I just encourage you to check it out. Next week, we'll have another episode of fun and great information. So please join me again next Wednesday for another episode of Your Pleasure Incorporated into Daily Living. Namaste, everybody. Don't forget to do your Kegels. Love you.